Welcome to another interesting episode by Anika TV. Today's episode, Career Compass, with Mr. Amit Agarwal, an interview dedicated to navigating the professional journey with insights from a seasoned entrepreneur and HR expert. Mr. Amit Agarwal is the founder of Arson Global HR, a dynamic firm established in 2008 with a visionary goal. Over the years, Ascent has grown into a key player in hiring middle to senior level talent for major multinational corporations in India and globally, boasting enduring client partnerships spanning more than a decade. Amit is a budding writer too, and soon releasing his book, Consciousness in Business Leadership. In 2023, Amit expanded his entrepreneurial footprint into the employee wellness space, introducing a unique offering of Chakra, Energy Center Balancing. Join me as Amit Agarwal shares his wealth of experience and wisdom, guiding freshers and young professionals on their path to success in the dynamic world of work. Whether you're navigating career choices, seeking professional growth, or exploring new opportunities, Career Compass is your essential guide to charting a fulfilling and successful professional journey. Namaste. So, thank you, sir, for accepting my invitation.
Thank you for choosing.
Yes, I really appreciate you taking the time to join me for this session. Your insights and experiences in HR are something our audience will greatly benefit from. And I'm surely looking forward to a great conversation. Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you. I look forward for the same, and I wish my whatever I say will help your audience. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah. So beginning with the first question is, what are the current trends in the job market that freshers should be aware of?
Sure. I think in terms of current trends, especially in the last 5 years or so, everybody knows AI, everybody knows about. It started with data science. So there are some technology skills and there are some non-technology skills, or some technology career paths in life and non-tech as well. So if I talk about tech, the technology is ever evolving, but we see that in the next 10 years, AI, data science is continuing to be the baton for the tech talent for the at least next decade or so. Likewise, company secretaries. Now we move a little bit towards a mix of this. So analytics. So analytics, we know, started about a decade ago, and it is growing and it is becoming very specialized for, let's say, HR analytics, sales analytics, and so on and so forth. Then, again, once again, in the last 20 years, so 10 years, social media that has given rise to various sub careers within the social media. There are very, very specific skills which have come up, and print, we will see that probably will get a little more obsolete, though some pockets will continue. But electronic, based on internet, is still at not the mature stage. And I think we see that next 10 years, social media will continue. Apart from this, at the entry level, if I talk about, usually the most of the requirement in terms of the function. So we just talked about maybe the larger industry domains, but if I talk about departments and functions, sales and telesales, so these are the two departments that we see that most of the freshers get hired in. Maybe not as much as in other departments, let's say purchase or other things, but primarily sales and telesales. And we've already talked about software, so AI, etc., are the hotter current trends in the market. And also, I think this is the trend that probably the source is the industry, but I think the other trend that you would like to focus on is from what we can see from the ecosystem. And when I say ecosystem, I'm talking about the latest long-term shift that I see now, especially in this century, is in a way that we need to also, as a fresher, we can also be a little choosy about the kind of organization that we want to work. So latest trend is to join organizations which have purpose attached with the existence of the organization. So we see that many of the organizations have just a vision or a mission to be the best technology company or best best hardware company or best FMCG company or to reach certain $1 million of revenues in certain time, or let's say spreading to these many countries in these, let's say 10 years. That is purely internal, and it is not at all going to impact the society in large. But with what we're seeing in the last 10 years, more and more companies have added the purpose. So, for example, HLL, Pepsi, etc., they have all added the purpose of existence, and this purpose is usually towards planet, people, primarily these two. So, I recently learned this in my course, which I did on leadership from the very famous Wharton Business School. So it was very happy. I was very happy to see that even they were talking about that it is now in the trend for a fresher or even a experienced person to join a company which has a purpose also, purpose around compassion, integrity, people, and planet. Yeah.
Yeah. Freshers will surely benefit from these inputs. And moving on to the second question is, what skills are most in demand for entry level positions right now?
Yeah, as I think I kind of partially covered when I just talked about the two categories, tech and non-tech. Primarily, industry can be largely bifurcated into these two different buckets. In technology, once again, data after data science, we started to see analytics, and then we are seeing AI. So there's a lot of buzz. Next 10 years, I think there are so many certification courses that one can get into machine learning, and I think most of you would know this. And on the non-tech side, we still see some support functions will continue. I can talk about functions, maybe some industries uh, as well, but primarily functions. Within the functions, the qualifications like CAs, company secretaries, and people who have certification in social media will continue to grow in the next 10 years.
So these will vary depending on functions.
So be it any industry, though industry trends of the industry goes up and down every 3 months, 6 months. Sometimes we will see more hirings happening in manufacturing, or manufacturing is more bullish. They're hitting more revenues. This is driven by the macroeconomics, the market dynamics, the seasons, the festivities. So the industries can go up and down in a year. But I think uh, the departments that we were talking about, within those departments, I think, as I mentioned, CAs, CS, and company secretaries will continue to grow.
Yeah. So in today's world, in today's time, most of the freshers need to know how important is a well-crafted resume and a cover
Yeah.
letter. And are there any tips on creating them?
Yeah, that's a very important need of the hour today. I think colleges must also focus a lot on how to create a right resume. Resumes are 90% of the resumes are imperfect. We understand they're freshers, nobody teaches them, so they don't even know what is the right way. Uh, so the first is that most of the resumes are incomplete. Sometimes we see that their location is not mentioned, though they will mention the qualification, the college, the years, some certifications, internship. But when it comes to, for example, the very objective, the top of the resume carries objective and summary. Most of the resumes, 80% of the resumes do not carry this, which is very important, so that the reader or the employer sees that what is the objective of this guy, what kind of industries and what functions and which geographies this talent is open to work in. Other uh, thing that we see is the various different, cosmetically, there are various fonts, there are different colors. So I think uniformity is very important. Number next, in our email, whenever we send a resume to a prospect employer, it's important to have an e-signature where our name and also the phone number is also mentioned. In resumes, ideally, resume for a fresher should not be more than 2 pages. Ideal could be 1.5 page. Uh, Avoid tables. Mention the LinkedIn link also, and any hobbies and passion also, because most of the progressive companies would want to hire holistic employees who are not just uh, inclined towards work only, but where hobbies, passion also create a very happy employee and has the employee work environment within the organization. So this is about the resume. Yeah.
So that clearly says that how we present ourselves, our profile is very important. And moving
Yeah.
on with that, what should freshers include in their LinkedIn profiles to stand out to recruiters?
Yeah, something on the similar lines. I think a picture, a photograph is very important on the profile. And there is a on the picture there is a possibility to let this appear that I'm open to work. Uh, the LinkedIn profile must also mention all the degrees, but because there's no experience, so I can't say that talk about the work that you've done, but it's also talk about it's also important to mention the whenever there are internship the person would have done. It's good to mention two-liner introduction of that organization and also at least 4 or 5 lines about what your work was. And also, once again, mention the location. Do not hide the email ID because one has to send a connection request to be able to see your email ID. So I think the email ID should also be mentioned in the profile so that there is nobody who is to take a pain to approach you and then see your LinkedIn ID later. So, and also it's important to continue to find the right connections, especially in HR, of the target audience companies that we want to once in 2 days spend an hour, half an hour, and get connected on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure beyond doubt, these tips will help them. Now, what are the key things recruiters look for in an interview with a fresher?
I think the first is punctuality. Yeah. Punctuality, and then God, the days are so different now. Forget the punctuality, people sometimes don't even join. I think fresher community has to set up a new example in front of the employer market by at least informing the employer or a prospect employer if the candidate is not going to be available on the slot which was suggested. I think as a result of which, what is happening today, the image of the freshers talent market today is not as professional, as conducive as it can be. And I think it is in the hands of all the freshers that we all need to be punctual and make the other party aware if there is a delay or absence. Uh, the other things could be communication skill. It is not only about English as a language. It is also about being articulate, staying crisp, to the point, and answer the questions which are asked instead of stretching it too much and probably deviating from the main question. We need to understand that the person on the other side is definitely more mature, and it's okay that you do not tell him too much because he would know little more than you. Maybe after you would have spent 5 years in work, then it's okay. I mean, somebody who's just 1 year senior than you, maybe your knowledge would be equal to his or hers. But I think at the fresh level, instead of trying to impress with various other statements, just stay focused and stay crisp. The next thing is one must show the seriousness about the very organization and the job. You know, sometimes the body language can communicate to the interviewer that this person is not very serious. The body language shows, and also the next point within this is that the research done on the organization. So before the interview candidate must go through the website. Also, there are a couple of more websites which talk about that organization: LinkedIn, Ambition Box, Glassdoor. So these are some other websites which can talk about the culture of the organization. And when you, at the right time, when you answer this, that I know about the line of business and I know how many employees you have, what is the annual turnover of your company. This, if you know this and if you say this in the interview, your selection is almost guaranteed. Yeah. I think that's largely, I think this is what person will look at. Apart from that, the skill about the role. If it is a social media related interview, so obviously your skill will also be a very important ingredient of the interview, and so forth for any function, depending upon what job you are appearing for. Yeah.
So, freshers basically need to nail the art of preciseness, and that too
Yeah.
effectively. Now, how can freshers prepare effectively for job interviews?
Yeah, for preparation, as I mentioned, researching on internet about the organization by going on their website, and also these two other websites which I talked about, Ambition Box and Glassdoor. Many times, even looking at their LinkedIn page, every good company would have a separate LinkedIn page about them. So it's important to see that. Also, when you go on the LinkedIn page of the company, there is an option of there is a button called People.
Yes.
When you click on the People button, you will be able to land on the page of various people who are working in the same organization. And when you further click on their profiles, you will be able to see that are these people good? Are they exciting enough for you? Have they done good work in the past? And so on and so forth. This is obvious. It is good to be in the formals. Uh, and yeah, I think that's good enough. I mean, skill set as a fresher, you're already aware of, and soft skills I've just talked about.
Yeah, so basically, when you look for a job, you need to find the right platform. So, what online platforms or resources would you recommend for job hunting? Like, unlike the common ones, LinkedIn, what else would you suggest?
I think here I will say that just do not depend on only the number one job site in India or any country. So apart from LinkedIn, we all know about Naukri.com, but it is highly recommended that do not stay only on these two websites, but upload your resume on at least three more, which is shine.com, Times Jobs, and Indeed. Yeah, the reason being that there are some recruiters who cannot buy LinkedIn or Naukri subscription because these may be costly, and hence those recruiters or recruitment agencies or even the employers would have the paid subscriptions of the other three brands that I just talked about. So it's also important to be available on all the five platforms, which is Shine, TJ, which is Times Up, and Indeed also.
Yes.
Number two, I think it is also important to keep refreshing your resume once in a week so that your resume becomes on the top of the search page result, so that whenever a recruiter wants to look for a candidate like you, he can see your resume on the top instead of waiting to scroll down through the page too much.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it depends on a person how that person sees something. Basically, it's their approach. So, how can freshers leverage social media in their job search?
I think there are some jobs. So we talked about LinkedIn, which is the most profound. Uh, Luckily or unluckily, I think that there's a monopoly. But I think to some extent, Insta and FB also has those, and also Indeed uh, is very effective in a way when the jobs are not very serious in nature. For example, digital marketing, social media marketing, and some tech roles also, and some sales role also. But when we talk about, let's say, roles which are not so uh, tech savvy, or roles which can be a little serious, for example, purchase, finance, logistics, supply chain. For those, I think Insta and FB would not be of that great help. But if you want to start your career in any service industry, in sales, or in technology, uh, these two platforms also are also good enough. I think in terms of social media, I think yeah, these three, Insta, FB, Indeed, are the places to go to.
So,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to freshers about choosing their first job or career path?
So there are two kind of companies or three kind of companies. One could be very small. Within the small companies, we can see startups also. The second category could be mid-sized companies who have spent, let's say, 10 years, 15, 20 years. And there would be a much larger, big conglomerate, irrespective of the age, but largely these are the old companies, established companies for about good 20, 30 years. I think for a fresher, not that I am against any particular category, but I think it's for a fresher, the doors for all the three kind of companies are very good and open. And hence, it will be advisable that to have a little more holistic and 360-degree experience, it's better to join a startup. Because because I personally think that after spending about 5, 10 years, uh, when the career is a little stable, it may not be a very wise and guaranteedly great idea to join a startup. Because in a startup, there is restructuring happening because of the funding. Uh, the roles may not be very defined. And also, you will find that some things are not very structured, which is okay. Which is this is how uh, in the initial stages, be it an organization or a person, things still are developing. So I think in the beginning of the career, joining a startup is something that we can encash on, which may not be the best option after having spent 5, 10 years in work.
Yeah. So, what final piece of advice would you give to freshers for entering the job market?
I think first of all, it's important to create a right image by taking the responsibility. Everybody must behave in terms of, especially the fresher community. It's important for them to be prepared for the job, be very serious about the job, uh, and make it communicable to the person on the other side of the table that he's very serious about the job. And also, if we think that if we have skills, then the right advice would also be to join an organization which is also having a holistic view to their very existence. As I mentioned in the beginning, uh, so today, if somebody is very skilled and definitely has got options to choose from, it's always advisable to join a company which has got a vision which connects with the larger ecosystem and not just with their personal interests. So as I said, personal interests could be, you know, my own turnover. For example, company will say that I want to be a 1 billion or $10 billion company, or I want to have 50,000 employees in these many times, or I want to operate from about 10 countries in next 10 years. These are all internal and self-centered objectives, which is okay, respectable. But if you have another employer to compare with, who's got a larger purpose and vision for people, planet, or society, that is a company where you will have a larger learning beyond money and career. So I think especially looking at today, whatever climate is doing to us, uh, in next 5-10 years, it's very important, I think, for the new generation to focus on the climate as well, to give back to the Mother Earth. I think this is also going to become, and I'm saying this may sound not so, this might sound very different, but once again, the top MBA colleges across the globe in the leadership positions are talking about purpose, but that purpose is primarily around planet, and that is going to be the need in the next 50, 70 years from now. Yeah.
Your insights and advices were incredibly valuable.
Thank you.
Amazing. And thank you so much for being a guest today. And I'm sure our listeners, who are basically the target audience, the freshers, will greatly benefit from your expertise. And
I hope so.
I'm looking forward to the next opportunity to collaborate. Yes.
Me too. Great. Thanks, Laura, for giving me this opportunity, and I look forward to contribute more. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Great.
Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you.